This one here is by Toyhouze. It's will classic Wrath still be casual friendly? My opinion, without ever having seen this video before, it just kind of came up on my suggestions, is that if you are a casual player, you will still be able to play classic or play Wrath casually. You won't have to go hardcore right at the beginning. If you're playing a character, you get up to 70 or whatever, you'll probably be able to find a raid to be able to start off with that's more of a casual raid and get through the content and stuff like that. So it depends how casual you're talking. Like if you're only playing once a week, that might be a little difficult, but you can still play the game. There's still things that you can do and stuff like that. But if you want to finish all the content, you're probably going to need to, I don't know, you're probably going to need to put in a little bit of time. I guess it's the definition of, how casual are you going, I guess. But yes, I think a casual player can actually do all the content, especially once you get up to, level. If you've got enough time to spend your 8 hours a week raiding and maybe an extra 4 hours a week doing other miscellaneous thing, 12 hours a week, is that considered casual? I think with that, you'd be able to do it. So anyways, we'll watch this video. I'll get to your comments during the video if you're talking about the video. And I'll pause it from, time to time to give my thoughts on what he's saying here. So.
New fresh Wrath servers, the majority of World of Warcraft's casual player base will be returning to the game. These players make up the majority of the player base and are usually trending on the older side of the community. They are usually those who fell in love with World of Warcraft when they were younger, but are now tied down by responsibilities outside of World of Warcraft, or even just lost interest in the game and choose to only play it for a few hours. The definition of a casual is someone who plays the game only for a few hours a day or even per week, whether that's by choice or because
a few hours a day, or per week, a few hours per week. Oof, that's very casual. I mean, that's not even like a full raid night. I mean, that's barely a full raid night. So I mean, if you're not doing, I think you're probably going to need to do 10 hours a week. Like minimum 10 hours a week of actually playing in order to actually do all the content. That means that you're in a guild that is raiding 2 nights a week, 3 hours each raid, which is even short then. And you're spending an extra 3 hours a week doing miscellaneous other shit in order to make gold and be able to pay for enchants and stuff. So I would say off the top of my head, at minimum, a casual player is going to have to be able to play 10 hours a week.
Because of responsibilities, the majority of these casuals will be coming back to World of Warcraft Classic for the launch of Wrath of the Lich King and fresh servers so that they can come back to a fair playing field. And what is casual?
Hey, for those of you watching the video, fresh servers are a joke. Like, they're not doing anything about bots, so your fresh server is going to be inundated with bots a month into the server, and everything's going to be out of whack again. So everyone that's excited about people not having gold there and blah, 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 bots are going to be there, which means people are going to be buying gold there, which means the whole economy is going to be out of whack. So playing on a fresh server is like literally a dream. Not because it's not a good idea, but because Blizzard doesn't do I was going to say the S word. Isn't doing jack, you know what, in order to actually solve the problem with bots.
Casual friendly, in my opinion, is a game that allows casuals to experience all parts of the game and continue to progress despite only having a few hours per day or per week to play. So in this video,
hours per week might be a little difficult.
Question: will Classic Wrath of the Lich King be casual friendly? Don't forget to give the video a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the video. Now, if we take a step back in time and look back at classic vanilla WoW, it appears that it did not serve the casual player base very well. The PvP system rewarded the players who played the most, usually all day, literally all day for months if you wanted rank 14, the highest rank.
Tell me about it.
PvE required you to go out of your way for world buffs, then log off your character until it was time to raid, and that's not even including farming gold for enough raid consumables like flasks, potions, food, and more. So really, in many ways, classic vanilla.
Again, one of the reasons why it took people so long to farm gold was because the prices were jacked up because of bots. Like if it was just absurd how much people would have to actually farm in order to buy the consumes that they needed for raid every week. Like
Vanilla
hundreds of
WoW
gold.
was not casual friendly. Many players like this and reminisce that Vanilla WoW was a hard game. In TBC, it became much easier to prepare for raid. You only needed a flask, some food for well-fed, some weapon oil, maybe a scroll if you're really min-maxing. Fast forward to Wrath, and it's the same story, but now there's feasts, so you don't need to bring food yourself. Your buddy can provide food for the whole raid. It's not game-breaking, but it's a nice addition. Remember when mages had to trade window food and water to a raid? I mean, thank goodness for mage tables. But going back to vanilla, there were long, difficult attunements. Well, maybe just Onyxia, not so much Blackwing Lair, but Blizzard really took the idea of attunements to the next level in TBC by introducing heroics and requiring revered reputation in order to even enter heroics, which were then part of longer attunements such as the Karazhan attunement or Tempest Keep attunement. Now in Wrath, there are way less attunements. You often just need to complete the final boss of the non-heroic version of an instance to access the heroic version. There are a few small attunements besides this in Wrath, but it's largely absent to the extent it was in TBC. Now in Vanilla, when you had an opportunity to raid, you had 40 players all competing for gear.
I missed 40-man raids, I'm not gonna lie.
Chance you could go to a raid and walk away with no loot that week. This got better when tokens were introduced that could be redeemed for your gear, which increases your chances of getting items when you raid, and especially in TBC when the raid size was reduced to 25 and 10 mans. Not only that, but bosses in Vanilla dropped 2 to 3 items. In TBC, they dropped 4 to 5. This definitely helps with getting gear from
Definitely
a raid.
do get geared a lot
TBC
faster.
did introduce raids with way more mechanics than in Vanilla, and because of the smaller raid size, each raider had more importance. Too many players
way
up in
more
a 10 or
mechanics,
25
meaning 2. Instead of 1 mechanic in vanilla, or most bosses had like 1 mechanic, now you have like 2. Maybe 3.
5-man raid, and that's a wipe. However, we saw that the raids in TBC Classic really didn't turn out to be as hard as we thought they were. We spent months farming Magtheridon, Gruel's Lair, and Karazhan. When Serpent Shrine Cavern and Tempest Keep finally released, the only 3 bosses that gave casual guilds trouble were really Morrogrim, Vosh, and Kael'thas, and these were nerfed eventually. Then there was Hyjal and Black Temple, which were steamrolled.
If you're a guild that is actually making an attempt to do well, like you really, like if you aren't clearing pre-nerf, like, I mean, if you're just a casual guild, whatever, and you just want to, have the enjoyment of doing it, that's fine. But I mean, it took them a long time to actually nerf the stuff, so.
Through. Even Sunwell was completed within hours after release. Maybe not by casuals, but
it wasn't even completed hours. It was completed like it was ridiculous. It was 45 minutes. Like Sunwell was cleared. I think it was like 45 minutes by the guild from China, and then there was like 8 other guilds that were within like I don't know another half an hour of them or something.
Sunwell
Crazy.
is the exception, not the rule for TBC. Then when we look forward to Wrath of the Lich King, we see an extremely easy tier 7, which occurs in phase 1 of Wrath Classic, including Nox Ramus. Blizzard actually plans on implementing increased health and damage to monsters in Nax because the community acknowledges how easy it really is, and more than 80% of the 14,000 people who responded to the survey likes this change. Most notably, however, with Wrath is that bosses do not have many mechanics. Parry haste has been removed except for a handful of bosses, and only a few absolutely require a tank to be expertise capped. And overall, only a small handful of bosses in Wrath go down in history as being difficult, namely Yogg-Saron without any watchers and 25-man heroic Lich King. Other bosses you can argue about, but with the abundance of guides and private server practice over the years, it's hard to imagine many guilds struggling through Wrath raiding. After all, many look back at Wrath and conclude that it introduced puggable raids, meaning they were so easy that any random pickup group or random group of players could clear all the content. That is a win for casuals. What else is worth noting is in Wrath is that there are 10 and 25-man versions of raids, and
there will immediately be like pug groups for Nax Ramus, like immediately. Like Although casuals, maybe they're not getting to level 80 in the first week, but if you're a casual and you're wanting to raid, you will be able to find a pug group.
Heroic
Easy.
raids. Depending on how you look at it, it either requires you to run 2 versions of the same raid in order to maximize your chances at gear each week, or it gives casual players an extra opportunity to get gear by being able to tag along for an extra raid that will fit their schedule. Blizzard, however, is looking to change that in Classic Wrath, possibly making them share a lockout so that you're only running one of the same raid each week. Whether this actually helps casuals or hurts them is to be seen. Maybe it will mean that the min-maxers will only run the heroic version since it drops better loot, and the casuals will only have a chance at the normal gear, but we're going to have to see how it plays out ultimately. When it comes to dungeons and heroics, the loss of random dungeon finder is definitely a blow to the casual. The ability to queue up and instantly teleport to
I will say this right now, and I'm going to get some heat over this, but I'm glad that they got rid of this. I wish that I wouldn't mind if they left the dungeon finder still in the game, but I don't like the teleporting. Like having people just sit in town and then get teleported into the dungeon, because it takes away from people actually being out in the world and traveling around and stuff like that. So I know like there's the lazy person who likes to just teleport immediately to the dungeon. I think it actually takes away from a lot in the game and makes the game look like there's nobody playing it. You're just sitting in town, getting teleported to a dungeon. You're done the dungeon, boom, you're right back into town again. I don't like that mechanic.
Dungeon saves time, it lets casuals level faster, get gear faster, and that means they make better use of the little time that they have to play. Not to mention, with the new tool, it means having to whisper players, spam in chat that you're looking for group or looking for more, and that's just more effort that might discourage casual players from doing dungeons and heroics at all. Many veterans of WoW will agree that Wrath made the game much easier. Even
like I said, I think it would have been a good idea for them to leave the actual dungeon finder, help them form the groups, but then you still had to travel to the actual instance.
Bringing the rise of the term Wrath Baby. But it looks like with the changes Blizzard is making to Wrath Classic, they are going in a different direction. It seems they are trying to undo some of the elements that made Wrath of the Lich King casual friendly. With the removal of Dungeon Finder, we're losing the disenchant button found below the Need and Greed button when an item drops with group loot. This means you'll need to ask if someone's an enchanter in your group, then give them the item to disenchant / roll for the shard and open a trade window. It's not really a big deal, but some might find it annoying to have to do that over and over and over. Another element of Wrath of the Lich King is the incredible class balance, where vanilla forced you to play a spec to be invited for a raid. For example, if you were a shaman, you're going rest.
Classes are done, like, overall, for the most part, pretty well in Wrath.
If you're a paladin, you're going holy, or else you're not getting invited. Balanced druids, ret paladins, prot paladins, these all were not viable for raiding in vanilla. TBC changed this big time, and in Wrath, it's even more balanced. Literally every class and spec has a place in the raid. Bring the player, not the class. That was the design philosophy for raiding in Wrath.
Unfortunately, that's not entirely true. You're going to have a lot of raids that are like immediately, if you're semi-hardcore or better, you're going to have raids that are automatically saying, okay, phase 1, you're playing Arcane. You're not playing Frost. Like, that's just, and any semi-hardcore guild or better is probably going to be doing that. Same as other specs as well, like Hunters of their one spec that they'll be playing generally the first phase. So I don't entirely agree with this at all. Shamans are going to get absolutely cooked in Wrath. A lot of raids are just bringing 1, maybe 2 shamans. So yeah, I don't know that I agree with that statement.
Is a victory for the casual player who can now play the spec that they want to go along with that class.
Having said that, let me correct myself. If you're a casual player playing in a casual guild, they might not care about that sort of crap. So that's my error.
Fantasy that they like, and not be forced to play the quote best spec or the quote best class. Now, the introduction of badges in TBC also allowed players to get gear that was almost as good as 25-man raiding gear by running heroics, allowing a very smooth transition into raiding. These badges continue to be valuable throughout the expansion too. Wrath continues with this excellent system, which allows players to gear up by grinding out heroics and farming their badge gear. But instead of calling them badges in Wrath, they are emblems. Now, this is a very important point. The ability to get gear more easily. This led to the term welfare epics. Epics that anyone can get for doing very little or requiring very little effort. For example, the empty mug of Dire Brew is the exact same as the Bloodlust brooch, but can be attained in one run of Brewfest instead of farming 45 badges of justice. Now in Wrath, welfare epics become even more accessible, with emblems allowing the purchase of very powerful epics and an absolute abundance of craftable BOE gear. And I mean that there is a ton of craftable BOE epic gear. I would argue that when
I like the fact that there's more BOE gear because it makes these professions more valuable. One of the things that, I think Blizzard maybe could do better is having more gear that is arguably as good as some. I think they maybe did that with like Sunwell gear, with like the recipes that you get out of Sunwell, where some of that stuff is like the best, best in slot, like the chest piece for warlocks and stuff like that. I wish they would do more of that, just to kind of make the profession gear better. Otherwise, the gear that professions make is not really worthwhile, basically.
When it comes to PvE, Wrath is very casual friendly. Now let's switch gears up a bit from dungeons, raiding, and PvE, and let's talk a little bit about the leveling experience. Now in vanilla, it was long, there weren't a lot of quests, and for some classes, it really was a struggle. Fast forward to TBC, and there was an experience squish. There were class buffs, buffed experience gains, and a ton of added quests, and even whole towns added to the game. Outland was perfectly streamlined for leveling, where vanilla had quests scattered.
I absolutely hate Outland. I have to pause the video because I hate Outland leveling. Like it's leveling through vanilla. The zones in vanilla was way more enjoyable. I'm leveling a new mage. It was way more enjoyable to still level in through vanilla than Outlands. Outlands is of all the zones between Classic, TBC, and Wrath, Outlands is by far the worst. I cannot wait to get into Northrend because you have zones like Grizzly Hills and stuff like that, which is way better than anything that came out in TBC.
Around, Wrath of Lich King takes it even a step further. While there wasn't another XP squish from levels 1 to 60, there was in fact an XP squish from 60 to 70 introduced in Wrath, decreasing the amount of experience needed by a whopping 30%. Not to mention, once you get patch 335 talents and scaling, you'll be leveling much, much faster. And the elephant in the room, heirlooms. These items upgrade with your character as you level. They give you bonus experience.
Hey, am I not mistaken? But were heirlooms not? They only take you up to level 70 though, right? If I remember correctly. I haven't had used heirlooms since basically Wrath, so it's been a long time. I forget. But were heirlooms not good? Like they only were. They only kept getting better until you got to level 70, right? And then you would eventually start replacing them.
Experience gains while you wear them. It is a massive change to the leveling experience, making it much faster and much easier. And that
was it only level 60
for the casual player base. Let's also not forget that Joyous Journeys, a classic WoW invention, will be coming a few weeks before pre-patch, and that will last all the way until Classic Wrath launches, granting a whopping 50% increased experience gains.
So it's actually longer than that. It's like 2 full months, this Joyous Journey. This video was obviously made before it came out, but it just came out not long ago, a few days ago, and it's a full 2 months of boosted XP. So people will be able to get their characters up to level 70 easy. They should be able to anyways.
on top of all the other Wrath changes from all sources. However, let's not forget that Random Dungeon Finder was an incredible tool for leveling your character. With its removal, we lose the Satchel of Helpful Goods, which contained an awesome unique or blue item. It also granted a ton of bonus experience and gold. It was really effective to just spam RDF to level, and that is a loss for the casual player base. But you can also just skip the entire leveling experience by buying a boosted character, this time to the tune of a level 70, with the exception being you cannot buy a Death Knight. Another win for the casual player, and another win for Blizzard's pocketbook. When it comes to leveling in Wrath Classic, I think
when did they first bring in boosted characters? Did they when was the first expansion where they allowed you to buy a boost? I don't honestly remember. I don't remember if they had it in TBC or Wrath back in the day. Was it MoP? Yeah, okay. So they didn't have it back in the day. And they can play it off as, hey, you know, we want your friends to be able to come and partake and blah 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 and stuff like that. But let's not beat it, like, let's not bullshit, okay? If they just wanted as many people to come and play with your friends, they would make it free. But they don't. They charge you whatever it is, $60, $70 or whatever. It's to line their pocketbooks. They're not stupid. If you were running a gaming company, you'd probably do the same thing, let's be honest.
Can safely say it will be casual friendly. All right, switching gears, let's talk about PvP. We mentioned briefly at the start that in vanilla, the PvP system rewarded the players who played the most, usually all day, for months if you wanted rank 14. In TBC, the arena system changed that, which allowed the most skilled players to rise to the top and receive more points while being able to play the game less. If you play 10 games a week and win them all that week, you're done and you have a nice high rating granting lots of points. So if you want to just play casually, but you're really, really good at the game, arenas work for you. In Wrath, this continues, but with an added bonus. Team rating is going to be removed in Wrath Classic and personal rating is being introduced. This is a win-win for players because it encourages players to not stay locked in their team, but instead explore playing with different players since you're not all sharing a team rating. There's still a good amount of battleground grinding required for some offset pieces in TBC, but in Wrath, the introduction of Vault of Archivon allowed an incredibly easy way to not only get your PvP offset pieces, but actual PvP set pieces. What would have taken a lot of honor farming or time gated behind arena points is now literally dropping off of a weekly raid. This is another example of free epics or welfare epics in Wrath. This was also an expansion where PvE had a big effect on PvP, with the best in-slot trinkets only dropping in PvE encounters, big powerful PvE items being best.
It's interesting how they're going to do Vault of how's it? Vault of Archivon? Is it? That's how it's spelled, right? Anyways, because this is tied to Wintergrass, right? So if you're on a server like I am, Fairlena, which is Horde dominated because we destroyed the Alliance and kicked them off the server, you would be getting access, Archivon, yeah. You would be getting access to the Vault of Archivon, but the way that they've changed it, and the way that they've worded it, makes it sound as though possibly both sides of the faction would have access. But I don't think that's exactly how it's going to, I don't know how it's going to work, but it's interesting because, I mean, there's virtually no alliance on Fairlena now. I think there's like 1 or 2 raiding guilds or something like that. So it's interesting the changes that they made, and I was gonna like look over a video of that as well, but I don't know. We'll have to wait to see how it plays out. But Vault of Archivon is one of the ones that you know, just with the changes to Wintergrass, we're still not really exactly sure how it's going to work.
In slot for PvP like Bryn Troll or Shadowmourne, but that is a topic for another time. From my observation, it appears to me that in vanilla, the best loot and the endgame content was exclusive to the hardcore and out of reach to the casual. But as we progress to Wrath of the Lich King Classic, it appears that the best loot and endgame content will be attained first by the hardcore, but eventually to the casual. A casual couldn't get rank 14 gear in vanilla, but in Wrath, a casual will get fully geared eventually. Blizzard certainly made Wrath a more casual game than its predecessors.
It
With
did.
the hashtag some changes announced, however, it does look like maybe Wrath Classic will be slightly different. The removal of RDF and the increased difficulty of Nox Ramus shows that maybe Blizzard's philosophy is seeing some changes. Maybe Blizzard sees that the Blizzard of old may have gone overboard on making the game too easy.
Yeah, let's be honest. The changes that they've made to Nax Ramus is going to make it slightly more challenging. The people who did Nax 25 back in the day, back in like original Wrath, were finding it easy then. And the players are way better now. Like way better. So the changes that they've made where the bosses are hitting slightly harder and they've got more health is barely, I honestly believe is going to barely be a blip for people after a couple of weeks. Like it was hella easy back then, and that was for players back then. The players are way better now, so if they're increasing the tough or how hard it is by just a little bit, it's gonna be ridiculously easy still. So.
And they want to undo some of those changes that came with Wrath to make it a little more like how they envision a classic WoW re-release. Now, if you're a casual, you're going to want to check out the video shown here, which lists the top.
We already watched that. Good video. I believe we agree that the casual player will be able to play Wrath of the Lich King. If you're there's people that are casual players, but they just know how to play the game. Like they're very efficient with their time. They will still like playing. I mean, he's suggesting a few hours a day. That's at the point where you're you're almost no longer casual, right? Like I mean, think about it. If you have a 9-to-5 job and you're spending, a few hours a day after work every day, that's 15 hours. So that's maybe the upper end of casual. If you're only playing for 3 hours a day, that's going to be or 3 hours a week, that's going to be a little rough. But if you're playing for minimum 10 hours a day, 10 hours a week, and you're very efficient with your time, I do think that you'll be able to get through all the content eventually. You might not get to the end of Wrath and have all of your gear and stuff like that. Maybe you will, but probably not. But you'll probably be in a situation where you've actually cleared all the content. And, when he's saying, will casuals be able to do all, play the game and get everything done? I think if you're talking about being able to finish all the content, yes, I think a casual player can do that. Will they be able to get up and get all the gear and finish Wrath with, all of their best in slot items? That's maybe doubtful, but I think the video was pretty good. He did go over a lot of the points that you would want to know if you were a casual player, PvP and PvE, and how you can go about getting your gear. And like I said, if you're very efficient about knowing what to do and what time to do it, and you're making sure that you're maximizing the time spent, then yeah, I do think that a casual player could actually succeed and get a lot of the stuff done and have a good time playing the game. And that's basically what it's all about anyways. So anyways, guys, that's it for this video, this YouTube video. If you liked my review of it, my reaction to it, please do me a favor and like and subscribe. You would not believe how much this actually helps my channel. I do a lot of these review videos and a lot of videos of my own as well. I also stream over on Twitch from 6 nights a week, from Tuesday to Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern. So if you're wanting to talk anything nerdy, whether it's World of Warcraft or Game of Thrones or anything else like that, please feel free to stop by my channel. I stream, like I said, 6 nights a week. I seem to always be streaming, but anyways, we can talk there. That's it for this video, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good evening.